All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We are live with the Provoke Coach podcast. As you know, I'm Clinton Mansfield, host of the Provoke Coach podcast, or AKA the Provoke Coach, as some people like to call me. Hey, look, as long as you don't call me late for dinner, I'm okay with that. I have with us a special guest today, a gentleman that I've been following recently, and I've been really inquisitive with following him because he reached out to me initially, obviously looking to help me out with my business. And of course, we kind of connected from there. So Sydney, a lot of people don't know who you are. Tell us, who are you? Sydney, CEO of Blue Lite Marketing.
For sure. So yeah, I'm Cindy Poeira. I am a 20-year-old CEO, which I like to pride myself in. So I'm the CEO and creative director at Blue Lite Marketing, and essentially what we do, we're an advertising agency that helps e-commerce brands scale their brands to multiple 5 and 6 figures a month. I'm currently at UCF getting my bachelor's degree in marketing. So that's kind of what inspired me to get into digital advertising. But yeah, so 20-year-old CEO is what I like to sum it up to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And at 20 years old, I wasn't thinking about running my own business or doing anything. I was just, I don't know what I was doing at 20 years old, but I know it wasn't really good and really wasn't productive. So, definitely hats off for you. Now, you specifically, work with brands that are more e-commerce type brands. I guess let's dig a little bit deeper into that, for a second.
Yeah. So when I started my agency, I was trying to dip my feet into anything that would get me clients, whether it was lead gen or e-commerce and whatnot. So I started off with a lot of lead gen because that's what's easier to acquire in this space and it's easier to run. But honestly, I like the challenge. I like the volatility in the market with e-commerce brands, always having to be on your toes in the accounts and whatnot. It's just a lot more fun for me. So about a month or so ago, I took the initiative to pivot to more e-commerce brands.
Yeah.
So all my clients now are e-commerce brands. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what is the difference? I guess explain to people when they're thinking about, e-commerce versus, retail as an example, brick and mortar, type retail. Like what is the true difference now in the world that we live in?
So the difference between e-commerce and brick and mortar and more like lead gen umbrella, because I
Yeah.
would say brick and mortar falls under lead gen, is it's just two totally different structures and systems on how to handle each one. Lead gen is really straightforward. Usually once you find the good audience and you find a good ad copy and creative, you can run that ad indefinitely and it'll just have a steady stream of leads come in, and then it's the client's job to then follow up with these leads and convert them. The difference with e-commerce is my job is to get the client sales.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the advertising as well as combining that with like closing the client. Um, and the audiences are always changing. There's always new people jumping into audiences and coming out, and just interests are different. So we have to, with e-commerce, produce a lot more ads with a lot different creatives, test different copies, test different audiences. There's just a lot more testing that goes on, but the challenge is there, and it's definitely rewarding on the back end, because also you can see the direct attribution that you give. With e-commerce, you can see like, all right, they've spent this much money and I've turned it into this much. Whereas with lead gen, it's a little bit harder to attribute that since they're doing the closing on the back end.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the main difference.
So, well, and I guess, it's quite interesting the difference between the two because you are going after the latter part, right? Which is really more work, more dynamic, more, calculation, if you will, more trial and error, if you will, rather than
Yeah.
just lead generation. Now, do you think that part has changed? I mean, I know that you're obviously young in this space, but I know that, and we'll get into your story a little bit later, but you've got some experience with this. Has it changed recently due to everything that, is really going on in the world?
I wouldn't say with things that are going on in the world, because with e-commerce brands, political things, social things don't really have an impact on it. The biggest change has definitely been in Facebook in particular. Ever since a couple of years ago when Mark Zuckerberg went in front of the Senate and there was that whole privacy thing with Facebook, ever since then they've been really like bunkering down on their privacy policies and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm sure anyone that's in the marketing space has heard of the iOS 14 mess that's been going on. So definitely with that, we've had to really change how we come at a strategy, and how we really run ads to correctly attribute sales to them. Because right now sales attributions can be really tricky,
Yeah.
which will lead to higher ad costs and whatnot. So that's definitely something that's changed.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and I guess, when they start regulating a market even more and more and more, the good companies will, like Facebook as an example, or Meta, or what, whatever, you want to, you call them, they will kind of adapt, and they will work around the situation to still be able to produce results. And I
Yeah.
guess really the bottom line is that ever changing flow. Do you enjoy that?
Yeah,
Riding that wave? Yeah,
for
because
sure. Yeah.
that's kind of chaotic at times, right?
It's chaotic, but at the same time, especially with e-commerce, it's the amount that you can scale to is crazy, because with lead generation, like I said, it's kind of hard to attribute sales. So with e-commerce, when you can attribute sales, now you can structure your deals instead of being just flat rate fees throughout the month. I can go up and say, hey, I'll charge you a little bit lower of a flat rate fee,
Yeah.
but I want a percentage of the money that I bring you in revenue. And so when you start bringing a client 100, 200, $300,000 a month in revenue at 15, and you're getting a 15% cut in that, that easily adds up to over $30,000.
Right.
So while it is more of a challenge, it's like anything. Once you master something, you've pretty much got it covered. So even with the changes, it's not really that hard to adapt to them. And the minor and how small that opportunity cost is to like adapt to these changes, to me is a no-brainer when it comes to how much money I can make in the back end with it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that makes total sense. What do you see in the future? I mean, I guess for your company, where do you really want to take your brand and the service that you provide to your clients? Where do you see that? I mean, in the future?
So for right now, I'm seeing more of a done for you strategy, because there's different types of strategies within and service offers within like the agency space.
Yeah.
For the next couple of years, I really see myself just providing these services for clients, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, adapting to SMS and email marketing, really broadening the scopes of what marketing I can do. But then after that, I kind of want to, while having the agency still running, I want to create like an education company and like a consultation business on teaching people how to start agencies so they can do it as well.
Nice, nice. So you want
Yeah,
to be able to scale into really bringing on more agencies and teaching them kind of those basic fundamentals on how to grow their team then.
exactly.
Wow, fantastic. And I mean, where do you see, I mean, you probably know more than most people do that are listening or that are watching now. Digital advertising, digital marketing, what's next? I mean, what is that next? Is it audio? Is it more video? Is it this meta universe that we keep hearing about? I mean, what's really going to go on with all this?
I think in terms of digital advertising as a whole, I don't think there is a next to that. Because you can see, like, even with Meta or Facebook right now, they're creating this whole metaverse, which is all digital. And I don't think big corporations like Facebook and like others that are kind of starting adapting to this digital world, they're not going to invest all these billions of dollars into R&D for a couple of years
Yeah.
of success. I think this is going to definitely be a long term. Now, within the digital advertising, I can see a lot of SMS marketing. different ways of email marketing really coming out. But yeah, I see probably the biggest one coming out within the next year or a couple of years is definitely going to probably be SMS marketing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, if it's going to your phone and, there's not an email that you need to check, another portal for you to jump into or for you to open up, just even those small steps in the world that we live in right now, this 3-second world, it's got to be fast, whatever it is. And it's
Yeah.
got to get my attention quickly.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
In order for me to pay attention.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's powerful. Now, let's talk about like current day. Right now, you're getting your marketing degree, at the University of Central Florida, correct? You're in
Sure.
UCF, living on campus. Awesome. It's a great campus.
Mhm.
What, I guess, here you've ran a business successfully. Okay. You've worked for somebody successfully in the space before you built your business, we'll get into that in a second, but here you are learning stuff. The professors are teaching you things. I know there's certain things that they're teaching you that you're rolling your eyes going, that's not how it is in the real world.
Yeah.
I mean, are there those things? Because I gotta believe there is.
Today is such a good example. So before coming on this podcast at 10:30 in the morning, I had a 7:30 accounting class, followed by a 5-hour study session for a quantitative business tools class. And me and my study partners, we're just looking at these questions, thinking to ourselves, like, we're never going to use this in business. I'm never going to need to find the derivative of some number for my business. I mean, I'm running a business right now and I haven't done that, and I don't think I ever will. But yeah, for sure, there's a lot of things that professors teach that I don't know. It makes me feel a certain type of way towards the education system, because
Yeah.
I'm throwing all this money to get an education, and I'm going to turn around and not use half of it.
Yeah.
I know there's exceptions to certain industries like doctors and lawyers and whatnot. Those are necessities to be into college. But
Exactly.
nowadays there's so many people that are going for different degrees that you don't really need a degree. Like, you don't need a degree to get into this. Like
Yeah.
one of my professors teaches my career development class. And she was a CPA. She was an accountant. So how can you teach a career development class just by doing accounting? Like, there's just like, I don't know. I just feel a certain type of way about the education system sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, and I hear you because as we were talking, kind of before we went live, is that happens so much. Like I mean, I forgot mostly everything I learned in school, except for my social skills and
Yeah.
how to work hard and not to be an idiot and show up, and you know what I mean, like all these life lessons that you learn, I guess, throughout the way. That's quite interesting. So are you going to then, just, finish out, get your degree, and then continue to build your company then? Or are you going to look to go work with somebody and be a partner someplace?
No, the only reason I'm getting my degree is for a backup, because I mean, there's never any certainty in the world. I
Yeah,
can be super successful for 5 to 10 years, and then something can happen that's out of my control, that everything just goes plummeting to the ground.
sure.
So the only reason I'm getting it is for a backup. But to say that I'm getting a marketing degree so I can further my business, no, not the case.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and it's about accomplishment. And I mean, I'm sure along the way that you're going to learn some things that you do need, right? Because I'm assuming, they do teach you something, right?
I've learned through my accounting class. I've learned that I need to hire an accountant. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
I looked at my test a couple of weeks ago. I go on our like web courses grade system. See the
Yeah.
grade of my test. Click a new tab. Local accountants.
Yep.
Starting to look for them to hire, because
Yep.
based on my test scores, I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, just be careful in that regard.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned. Mess up a couple of times. Well, look, how did all this start? I mean, I guess tell us the story from the beginning. I mean, where did you grow up? I mean, were your parents into marketing and advertising? Like, what did they teach you along the way? Like, where did this come from?
Yeah. I was born in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I guess you can say like the projects of Massachusetts. I was in a city called New Bedford, which is very gang oriented.
Mm.
We moved from there because my parents didn't want that life for me and my brother. So we moved to Florida, Palm Coast, Florida, and I've been there ever since. My dad's a firefighter. My mom has been a stay-at-home mom since my older brother was born. So she doesn't have much experience in the work world. Um, in terms of marketing, this was the last thing that I thought I was going to do, but ironically enough, is the thing that I'm most passionate about.
Yeah.
Um, as a kid, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. In middle school, I had books and books and books of the brain and the human body, just reading those books because I was so fascinated. But
Yeah.
that came to a halt when it was one night I was driving with my dad and he hit a deer, and the
Uh-oh.
deer ended up dying. And I was like, if I feel so much for this animal, I'm not going to be able to I'm not going to be able to be a doctor and see all this like sorrow that goes on in hospitals
Right.
sometimes. So that went out the window. And through high school, I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I was just always bouncing back and forth to the main things that all parents want: lawyer, doctor, business person.
Right.
Um, but going into after graduating high school, I started dabbling into the world of YouTube, and I was like, wow, this video creation stuff's pretty cool.
Nice.
Invested a bunch of money on video gear, and I started a video production company. Quickly realized that that is not what I wanted to do. It's something that I have a passion for, but I didn't want to do it full time. So I stopped that, and
Why
as
didn't
I
you want to
stopped,
do it? I mean, what kind of, I guess, derailed you in that sense?
the clients that I was working with,
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like the market is really oversaturated. Because not many people yet. There's a lot of people, but not as much people really realize the value of video in your business. Um, and just the clients, I didn't like working with those type of clients.
Yeah.
So as I stopped that, I was coming into UCF, and I decided to change my major from video production to marketing. And
Mm.
as I did that, my girlfriend's cousin is actually a fitness coach, and he asked her, he was like, hey, do you know anyone that wants a job in admin work and whatnot? So she spread the word to me. I was like, yeah, sure, like I need a job, I need some money.
Yeah.
I took the job doing admin work, and he just saw something in me and like my skills of bringing his product to the world. And he was like, like I see something in you, and I want you to end up being in charge of my marketing because you're doing really good. So he invested some money into me learning Facebook and Google advertising and whatnot. Um,
Nice.
but as time went on, I realized that I'm not someone that particularly likes working for people. I like working with people, but not for people.
Yeah.
And he was, I'm not going to say that, but it just wasn't a good fit for me. So I took the
Yeah.
initiative and left that. But I still like this thing of Facebook advertising and Instagram, and it really caught my attention. I was super interested in it. I got the concepts really easy. So I invested a bunch of money into some mentors that are really well known in the space, and built really good relationships with them and worked side by side with them until they felt that I was ready to really start something on my own. So here I am, starting my own advertising business.
That's awesome. And I know it's been successful lately. I know that, I mean, you just landed a few more clients, just recently. I mean, where do you think that you attribute a lot of your drive from? Because, here you are 20 years old, and you're starting, we've already started your company. It's already moving in the right direction. And, obviously time will tell, I mean, that's how business works. But,
Yeah.
where do you get the drive from? I mean, why don't you just work for somebody? I mean, I know you don't like to, but nobody likes to.
Yeah.
Right? Like, where does that come from?
So I guess I can attribute a bunch of my drive to my dad.
Yeah.
My dad's a very hardworking person, and so
Yeah.
innately I can attribute that to him. Um, But I can say the thing that drives me the most is my girlfriend. She's pushed me so much because since the beginning of our relationship till now, we're a very different person in terms of motivation and drive.
Nice.
And quite frankly, I'm trying to propose to her, and I can't do that not having money. So, so I'm trying to expedite that process as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it really just comes down to me wanting to be financially free and having like freedom in my time.
Yeah.
Because while my dad's a very hardworking man, I have 3 other siblings, so money's always been tight in the house between being a firefighter. It already doesn't pay a lot, and having to provide for this family. Um, I knew that I wanted something different for my life and for the life of my future kids. So I was like, I sat there thinking to myself, and I'm like, I can make something for myself and me be the determining factor of how much money I make, or me work for someone else and they be the determining factor on how much money I make.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just a no-brainer for me to start my own thing.
Yeah, and logically, I mean, it definitely makes sense, right? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I know, I mean, it's good that you're knowing this now because, when I was growing up, when I was your age, it was find a great job with a great company, find a great wife, have great kids, white picket fence, the whole nine. And that was just, it was just different then. But then again, it's all about what we surround ourselves with. It is a part about how we were brought up. Like you said, you were brought up, to where, your dad was working hard, but, you're right. You weren't the only kid there. That everybody's got to eat, and I mean, you're talking about 3 of you, right? Like things get, challenging pretty quickly. Well, I guess for you I'm going to ask you kind of a 2-part question, before, before the broadcast is finished. I ask everybody that gets on here, but for you specifically, 2-part question would be number 1, what advice do you have for somebody out there that, maybe they are young like you, maybe they don't know what they're going to do next. They're not, they're at kind of that pivotal moment. What advice do you have for them? And then the second part, which I'm inquisitive about as well, is the business part, marketing as a whole. If somebody was just now kind of thinking, damn, I need to get into marketing my company a little bit, I need to, get into today and age. What advice do you have for that business owner marketing wise? So I guess we'll start with, the personal, that person that's listening out there.
Yeah, I would say just trust the process. Sometimes, especially people in college, when they don't know what they want to do, they get so frantic. They end up not choosing the thing that is right for them. They end up being miserable in the long run just to get that paycheck. I'd say just trust the process because I mean, like I said, for me, I never expected to be in marketing. To be honest, like I didn't really know much about marketing and what that actually was until I started doing it myself. So I just say trust the process. You'll come to find something that you enjoy, and everyone has that thing inside of them wanting to start something. And if you don't, that's completely fine. You can find that thing you enjoy and work on it with someone else, under someone else. But I would say just trust the process. You will get to a place where you know what you want to do. So just trust it and don't rush it.
100%. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and you're right. Like, even if it's not, starting your own company, you don't have to be like Sydney, you don't have to be like Clinton or anybody else. Be you, but you're right. That one thing, if it is working with a company, a great company, doing what you absolutely love, who fucking cares? Go for it. Like that's
exactly.
it. 100% trust the process. Now, what about for business owners in the marketing world right now?
Marketing right now is where it's at. Honestly, if you're not marketing, your business isn't going to succeed. You have to do some sort, even as simple as what I did with you when we first met, reaching out to see if you needed help with business. That's marketing. You're putting your business out there. And it comes in many different forms: email marketing, SMS, Facebook, Instagram, and these are more paid versions. When you start, just word of mouth, literally send emails, send texts, send LinkedIn messages to as many people as you can.
Yeah.
The more people you message and the more people you put yourself in front of, the more clients you're going to get.
Yeah.
Like with me, it took a good while until I got my first client after tons of emails and tons of LinkedIn messages and whatnot. So you just have to do it. You have to put yourself out there. Your business is not going to succeed.
And you got to be relentless, like I think that, it's so funny what you said, because it is marketing. Like, people think of marketing like, okay, yeah, let me pay somebody like Sydney to do it all for me, to do my Facebook ads, to do all that. That's fine. That there is a part of that. But I've ran across businesses and companies, and I'm sure you have as well. I mean, just in coaching them, that they haven't lifted a finger in DMs or in just messages, any of the free shit. And I tell them the free stuff. Okay, so you haven't reached out to anybody ever, and you expect your business to grow. Like, it isn't about just dropping, $100 a day on Facebook ads and seeing what happens. Like, you haven't even
the truth on that.
You haven't asked anybody yet, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a powerful message that you said, is this, even DMs, even like, yeah, you reaching out to me. That's how we became connected. You never know. Somebody's going to hear your message and be like, oh my God, I need Sydney, right? Like,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? And that's what happens.
Yeah, and you should always think of it as a win-win, because you're reaching out to all these people. Let's say you sign the deal. That's a win. You're getting money. You have a client. If you don't, it's still a win, because now you're getting these valuable tools and experience that you can reference from. So you can know how to craft your pitch, how to craft what you say to people to get those clients. So for me, it's just adopting an abundance mindset, even in business in general. Because while I've had yeses from prospects that I've turned into clients, I've gotten a lot more no's. And that's going to happen with everyone. I'm sure you've reached out to a lot of people and they've said, no, like, I don't need it. Even if no, you need it. Like, trust me. I know what you need, and you need it.
Exactly.
But it's just that thing of having an abundance mindset. Like, even though they say no, a yes is going to come. So you just got to keep finding that yes.
But not only that, like, I think that we forget about, and you'll appreciate this, there is a natural algorithm that we give out, right, as individuals. Like, and if you want to really mess with Instagram and Facebook and Meta and all these stuff, play the game a little bit and see what happens. Because when you prime the game where you're playing too, like, if you think about like a video game where the computer's playing, right? Well, that's, Facebook and Instagram doing its job and getting it to the right people and using data. But we as humans, we need to use data and touch points and pivot points as well. And you're never going to know if you don't ever play the game.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like, are you messing with the algorithm? Like I do every day. I prime it up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Prime it up, go through, and and then boom, it hits. And people don't really get that part of it so much. They think, oh, it's just a machine. It's like I'll use this example. It's like a self-driving car. Okay, I got news for you. I'll get into a car. If it's a self-driving one, I'll let it take the wheel every now and then. But you better believe I'm ready to grab it. I'm going to do a little bit of some wheel playing as well, just to make sure I'm still in control. People don't do that in the world that we live in. They just like, let me just go. But anyways,
and I feel like that's such a big misconception with entrepreneurship, because people see these gurus and see these people that have made it, and they look around and they're like, every YouTube video I see on what I want to do, people have been successful. But the only reason they're successful is because they worked at it. And I'm sure they said the same thing about everyone else. So like, especially nowadays, so many people have been like, oh, if it works for them, it's going to work for me. And that gives them a false sense of security to drop their guard and not try as hard. But I just encourage everyone, like, bust it, like, work. If you think you have to work this hard, work harder than that, because you're going to have to work harder than that.
Yeah. Well, especially working for yourself. I mean, I'm sure that you understand and know this, like, because you've worked for other people as well. So have I. working 40, 50, 60 hours for somebody else can be a drag. It can be really dreadful. But it's not always the grass is greener on the other side. Like I've busted my ass for 20 hours almost in a day on my own business, and felt like, oh my God, my head was going to explode. But you do it, because it is for, your company. It is for you, because you take all the risk, you take all the financial risk, you take all the, all the time risk, right? I mean, everything that you dump into it. Well, wow, man. Well, listen, man, I wasn't expecting to get this much out of you, Sydney. But I'm excited that we had this conversation. I really am.
Yeah, for sure.
I can definitely see a part 2, definitely, in the future, 100%. I like where your company is going. How do people find you? Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So right now, you can just DM me on Instagram at the Sydney Poeira. That's usually where I'm most active. So yeah, everyone can find me there on my Instagram page.
Yep. Instagram. And I know you're on, you are on LinkedIn as well. That's where you reached out to me, as well. And yeah, I'm excited to where you're going, man, and how you're really going to knock this out. And I love the education portion because, you really teaching things in a different way than maybe that traditional education is going to help. It's going to help a lot of people. It's going to help a lot of people, not only in marketing, but really figure out what they want to do, because as well as I do, the youth right now, I mean, they're into digital everything, and they're going to be their best, well equipped, if you will.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have you hang around for a second. We're going to let everybody else go. Everybody, look, if you loved this episode, which I know you did, don't forget to leave us a review. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share, click like, do what you got to do. Give us some love. All right. And remember to provoke positive change in people's lives. We'll talk to you soon.